This episode of Beyond the Tube is proudly sponsored by Blended Tube Feeding. Blended Tube Feeding was created by dietitian Hilary Gurink to support families who want to nourish their tubie with real food. Built on proven, research-backed methods, the platform empowers parents and caregivers to feel confident about safely and effectively using blended diets. Want more hands-on support? Check out Blended Tube Feeding Made Simple, an online community overflowing with delicious, nutritionally balanced recipes designed specifically for tubies. You'll also get step-by-step videos, expert resources, and a private community where families can connect and learn together. As a Beyond the Tube listener, you'll receive 25% off your monthly subscription with my exclusive affiliate link, which you'll find in today's show notes. Now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to Beyond the Tube. Today we are joined by a wonderful parent, Amy, who is here to talk about her experience with tubes and all about her beautiful baby who has a lovely story to share. Welcome to the podcast, Amy.
Thank you, Fee.
I would love to start with how your journey on tube feeding began.
From the beginning, Thomas, he was actually breastfed fine for the first 6 months of his life, but he just couldn't transition to solids or fluids. At that time, because he wasn't eating or drinking and my supply was dropping, his sleep was really bad. So we ended up taking him to Tresillian for a residential stay. It was a very bad experience there because there was some points of force feeding and so forth. I think that's what triggered his oral aversion, and that's how we ended up with the tube. He ended up being dehydrated. He fell off the growth chart. We didn't have a pediatrician apart from the one that, checked us at the hospital and discharged us. We saw her. She referred us to Children's Hospital ED, and from there they inserted the tube, the NG tube. He was on that for, I think, about 2 months. 2 months where it was very isolating. We got discharged with really no follow-up. Gosh, I want to get emotional. And there's not many resources out there. I did Instagram searches, hashtag searches, Facebook searches, which is how I got to the Feeding Tube Australia group.
Yes.
I called the community health nurse and they said the only resource available was that Facebook group. I reached out and made a lot of calls. There were no tube weaning programs in New South Wales. Every time we had an appointment with the Children's Hospital, the dietitian would say, all you have to do is just keep persevering, which is offer the food. If they don't want it, then, do the tube feed. At that point, I was desperate because it had been 2 months. We've gotten no real progress, like no direction for the future. We sought help from an international company in the US called GIE, Growing Independent Eaters. Everything was virtual. The time zone was a bit of a challenge, but the program involved 4 steps. Each step was a 25% reduction in the tube feed. We got to the 4th step and I think emotionally, I might not have been ready to see him struggle so much, not realizing that food will help him feel better. He was hungry, but he still didn't have the oral skills developed because there'd been no practice. He was fussy, he was crying. I couldn't comfort him as I normally would. The only times that he would feel better is when we did the tube feed. But from that program, something big came out, which was he eventually learnt how to sip from a cup and he learnt how to suck from a straw. He was so chuffed. His first 5 meals, he actually started touching solids. The first food that he tasted was roast pork. So something massive came out of that.
Yeah.
It was a very traumatizing time because we weren't equipped emotionally, mentally, just anything at all. To see your own kid struggle and suffer that way, so many times we wondered, are we doing the right thing by him? We're depriving him of calories just to try and trigger that hunger. At the same time, you wonder, is this detrimental to him because he's not getting any nutrients? But if we hadn't done that, then I feel as though we still would be completely reliant on the tube right now. He's been tube free. So that was massive.
That's huge.
Yeah, that was really big. So the 4th step came. We put the tube back in because I wasn't coping. It affected our family really bad. We weren't functioning. My older daughter was really on the sideline. She took the brunt of it all. So many times, he'd pull the tube out and we didn't want to be associated with reinserting, holding him down, or take him to Children's Hospital, ED. The longest wait was 6 hours to reinsert because it was after hours. They didn't have an after hours ward that we can go to. And ultimately, we decided we had to learn. It was not a great feeling holding down your own kid and forcing it in against his will. The quality of life that we had was not great. I wasn't coping well at all. I think unless you're experiencing it as an outsider, it's really hard to offer support. When people try to offer support and say, how's it going? What's happening? Why is this? Why is that? For me, I can't process it, let alone try and answer other people's questions. That was just really tough. I started breaking down. I started withdrawing from everyone, plus my own family. I resorted to self-harm. And when I hit that rock bottom, that's when I realized this is not good at all. Julie, my partner, we had many chats. We were like, maybe it's time we just accept it. But obviously I couldn't accept it because there was no root cause. I mean, they say oral aversion, but to me, I didn't feel like a valid enough reason to justify what was happening. Maybe if there were more awareness out there, more work put into oral aversion as an actual condition, maybe it would have been easier to accept. Physically, he's fine. He had no reason. And to be breastfed, fine. It didn't make sense. We also sought help from other pediatricians, but we got rejected, up to 5, 2 of which I still have a copy of their responses, which was we already had a pediatrician that was well known, and so they couldn't add any more value. This pediatrician, and I won't say any names, I was disappointed because there was no suggestions of any other method apart from ED, NGT, easy solution, see you later. That's how I felt. That was the reality for me. I wanted a second opinion. To get rejected by pediatricians, to feel as though, okay, I had one, but now I can't change my pediatrician. I was stuck with them forever. I was so disappointed in the public health system. I had no say.
Yeah, they took your power away as a parent.
Yeah. I felt as though I was asking for help, but it was just falling on deaf ears. I was literally going out there, calling all the pediatricians. Once they asked for the current status and realized it was a tube-related situation, they said they couldn't add any more value. Those were their words.
That's very disappointing.
And it wasn't, they wouldn't treat him. They wouldn't even put him on the wait list. That was devastating.
That was through the public system, or was that private as well?
Private. That was private.
Wow.
Yes. So I was very angry for a long time. Angry, emotional, just the whole work.
I can feel my blood boiling as you're telling me this. I can relate.
We were connected with a Children's Hospital dietitian and speech path. I personally didn't feel like we got much out of there. We tried to explore private speech pathologists. We got in contact with one who seemed great, but then the issue of being linked in with a public hospital and seeing a private, you can't do that. And we had to make the choice whether or not we stop our link with the public, which I was fearful of because if anything happens, I wanted to be able to go to them for the services. And we had to give up the private speech path.
I think this is demonstrating another real broken link in the chain that is our health system collectively around choices between public and private, making a decision. You have to have one or the other. They both can't work collectively together. At the end of the day, they're all health professionals that should be able to support you. You should be able to have options. You should be able to go privately and test the waters. Is this going to work for me? No, it's not. Okay, that's great. I'll go back. I'll stay with publicly, or vice versa. There shouldn't be this definitive one or the other. That's it, which just makes the journey harder.
I know, because all I wanted was the best for my son.
Of course.
I had to make choices that I didn't want to because I should have options.
Of course you should.
I should have options as a mother who's looking for the best care for my son. I then, in every forum, in our local Newington forum, and at work, I asked anyone and everyone, did they have a pediatrician that would be willing to see me and my son? I just asked everyone. Eventually, my colleague poured a massive favor through her friend, who is the friend of a pediatrician's wife. That's how I ended up seeing my current pediatrician for Thomas. I remember when I first saw him, I cried because I felt as though I was finally heard. For a clinician to finally hear me, something that I was craving and looking for so long, was a weight off my shoulders. You could tell that he had the same goal in mind for Thomas. It wasn't about, the theory says he had to drink a liter at this age. It was, let's look at him as a whole. Let's take into consideration his context and try to get him off the tube, no matter what it takes. Even if it's not the conventional way, we'll try different methods to see what works best for him, because it's him. It's ultimately up to him. And we can't prescribe what's going to work for him without him telling us. He put me in contact with his speech path. That was in November 2024. And then by 3 months, he's been tube free. Since the 20th of February 2025, he's been tube free. We're still working on it, but he's doing so well. He's maintaining his own curve on the growth chart. That's what the pediatrician looks for, not what the average is, but where he's sitting and whether or not he's maintaining it. That's what I've been waiting for, someone who sees it holistically and just doesn't put the entire focus on the weight. Is he developing okay? Is he happy and healthy, alert, and so forth? All these factors he's taken into account.
Yes.
And they got us here, and I'm just forever grateful.
That gives me tingles. It's amazing. So much of what you're saying, I've also lived. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening or watching us right now who are also thinking, this is my story, or I can relate to this part of Amy's story. So many people, particularly what you said around resources. I think that's a really big issue. Before we go down that path, how old was Thomas when he got his tube? Or first time he got his tube put in?
8 months, I think it was.
He was 8 months when the tube went in for the first time, approximately. And then how long did he have the tube in for?
So the tube was removed in February this year.
So around about 8 months?
Yeah, around that.
It seems to be the recommendation versus the reality is a problem. Part of what you said around public, private, bouncing around, trying to find the right person, the right pediatrician to support the child, not just supporting someone with a tube that it's the generic one size fits all. It's not. It's very different for every person. Every person has a different way that they're going to cope with it. I also think that there's a whole other issue around the public system not being able to cope with this, and therefore children are left with tubes for far longer than they really should be.
The appropriate training and education. I remember the dietitian admitting that she had never done a tube wean before, so she had no idea what to do. The only thing she could think of was to persevere with offering. I appreciate her honesty, but that was the last thing I wanted to hear, because historically, the NG tube is meant to be a temporary measure, as you said, and it's to get them back on their feet. And once that's achieved, then you look into other ways to help them along. To hear from the team that were looking after us, they don't know how to move forward from here, especially given he had no physical conditions to contribute to it. It was a massive concern. It was a huge flag.
Absolutely.
Hence, that drove me to look into private. You can't see public and private at the same time. So you reach a dilemma. Like, what do? You get so desperate because the services are there, but are they really there for you?
I couldn't agree more. There's a big disconnect here. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know how to fix it, but I definitely think there's a problem. There's no connection between public and private, and there's no cohesion. They don't really want to work together, or the systems that are prohibiting them from working together is causing the block. I'm not sure which way it is, but I've definitely experienced the same thing, where it's a choice. You get this or you get this. You can't have them together. And particularly if you're transitioning. So I would think, like in your case with Thomas, if you're liaising with a speech therapist through the hospital and you go and investigate what could I get outside of what the public system can offer me, there may need to be conversations between, like, this is what we've done, and then they can understand that this is what's happened in the private clinic and go, okay, well, we can actually give you a little bit more by doing this, this, and this. What do you think, Amy? Do you think this would be helpful for Thomas? Yes, I do. Great. Let's get it started. You can put them on hold, go and work with them. If it's a great fit, fantastic. Bye-bye, I don't need you. Frees up the public health system for somebody else who might be starting their journey or someone who might need more availability. Whereas if you don't have that and you try and go back because maybe the private isn't the right fit for Thomas, you can't get back in because they don't want to know you then.
Exactly. And to get back in, you're then placed on a wait list.
Yep.
And it takes quite a long time.
You live in Sydney, right? You've got access to some of, if not the best, children's hospitals in the country. Like, we're talking the best. Sydney Children's, Westmead Children's, two of the best children's hospitals in the country. You live here. Do you know what I mean? You're assigned to those hospitals. I know there's a lot of people that I've spoken to who are regional, who don't have connections. So their local hospital might be Dubbo. There's nowhere for them to go. If they need to go to somebody, they have to do it on Zoom or to be able to liaise with somebody, but they get further and further and further and further down the list because they don't live in a city. And that is the experience you've had. Like, it just blows my mind that for someone who lives in a city to have these sort of delays and breaks in the chain, imagine what it must be for people who live in regional areas and how hard and lonely that must be. It's mind-boggling.
It is. Interestingly, the pediatrician actually asked us to keep it quiet, that we were seeing both his private speech path and also the hospital, because it's all political. And he said, because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, you want to be able to access the various teams and then choose what's best for you. To hear that from a pediatrician is massive.
It shows the systemic issues that are at play here. It leaves parents so vulnerable to either accepting care that perhaps isn't right for their kid or having to make a decision when they're perhaps not ready to make a decision, which is just so unfair. I want to know, how is Thomas going since he's come off the tube in February?
He's doing great. He is in daycare now. He started daycare whilst he was still on the tube because I mentally needed that break.
Of course.
And then, so they did help us with tube feedings. But since he's been off the tube, they've actually noticed that he's much happier. I've noticed that at home. Daycare have noticed that. It's so good to see that he's happier, he's still thriving, and he can do it.
So, since the tube wean successfully happened in February, what does life look like now without the tube?
He's doing really good. Daycare have said that he's so much happier, and we've seen that behaviour. He's really positive and cheery at home since it's been removed.
Yes.
He's doing well. He's drinking and eating, but he came to a point where we also just wanted to give him that little boost if we could, to push him a bit further with his intake. We decided to trial him on Periactin. How it works is you do half dose in the morning and half dose at the night. We've only stayed with the half dose at night so far. His drinking of formula has definitely increased. Prior to Periactin, he was probably averaging about 500 or 450 around that mark. But now he's doing almost double the amount. Solids wise, he's still nibbling. Depending on his mood, he may try something, but daycare offers, we offer at home, and it's up to him if he wants to touch it or try and taste it. He doesn't really have much of a safe food, so that's a bit of a challenge. He still gets offered 3 meals, 2 snacks, and if he doesn't want to eat them, then he'll have the fluids.
To think where he was at 8 months, not thriving, really struggling, needed the NG tube, all that heartache and pain that you went through as a family. And it's always hardest on the mum. The kids will not remember this. They're so little, they don't remember. We carry it forever. To think what you've gone through to get to this point where he sits and drinks a bottle must just warm your heart every time you see it.
It does, but I think it's so easy to lose sight of the bigger picture of how far he's come as well. Up until recently, we didn't have to track his oral intake with a speech path, so we had to track how many meals, what he was eating. That really zoomed in on what was happening because it just emphasize on how little intake. It was just still little in comparison to your average kid. That triggered a lot of anxiety. Moments like these where you get to share your story and reflect, it does remind me how far he's come. It's huge. And for him, he's so young and he's been through such a massive traumatic experience that, you know, hopefully he won't remember. I'll remember that for him.
You'll have all the stories to share. I can relate on so many of the things that you said, and I really think that there'll be a lot of people out there who will be going, this is me, this is my story, this is how I feel. I really think for people to see that there is some light at the end of the tunnel, and everybody's light might look different, but there is light, there is hope, there's always potential that something will shift, even if it's only a few mils. In that moment, it is hard to see, I agree. But once you step back and look at it over a period of time, you go, wow, we have made strides, we have got somewhere, and we have to remember those things, otherwise it's really hard to keep moving forward.
It is. I remember during our journey, you'd read all these successful stories, then people would say, he'll get there, at his own pace. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but you just can't see any of that because you're knee deep in it. And to see him struggle at something that you feel should come naturally as a survival instinct.
Yes.
But it's not happening. It's really tough. I remember saying this to our pediatrician, and he said, you always have to have hope. You can't lose hope. You have to believe in him. And it's true. Now it's my turn to say to everyone, there is light at the end of the tunnel, but it's a big fight to get there. It is a huge fight. And you might reach rock bottom, but you will get there.
It definitely is a journey. I know that is super cliche, but it really is. This battle is not fought and won overnight. It is something that takes time. For some kids, this may be life. We're at that point with Ezra now where it could be this is it for the rest of his life, to some degree. What degree that will be determined by him, exactly as your pediatrician said to you about Thomas. It's his choice, it's his life, it's his body. He's so little, it's so hard for them to tell you. They can't talk, they can't tell you what's wrong, or they've only got a small vocabulary. They don't know how to articulate. I also have had the conversation with particularly specialists around they don't know any different. However this feels for them, however it feels in their stomach, however it feels in their throat, however it feels in their body, is how it's always felt. This is their normal. This is all that they know. That's where we rely on our doctors to go, well, we're going to do this test, or we're going to do this surgery, or we're going to try this approach, to be able to narrow down what it is. Has he ever seen any specialists to investigate if there's anything structurally going on, or has that not been the paediatrician's course of action?
He did get reviewed at our paediatrician's request by the feeding clinic paediatrician at Children's Hospital. They observed him eating and drinking. They didn't see anything wrong to justify further examination.
That's really interesting. Has the paediatrician been able to provide you with anything around what he thinks the root cause is of the oral aversion?
He hasn't come up with anything.
Okay.
It's
That's
just a mystery. It's all a mystery.
That's a really big part of oral aversion, and it's something that I feel very passionate about, is that label and its meaning or lack thereof. It encapsulates a lot. There's not a lot behind it though. With Ezra, they classify it as oral aversion, but he doesn't have a problem touching food, putting it in his mouth. He will basically try everything and anything. His issue is a swallow aversion, but there is no such diagnosis. Similarly to Thomas, Ezra breastfed. Difficult, yes. There was issues with him choking and things like that, but he fed and he was thriving on the 95th percentile and dove off the bottom of the charts, same as Thomas. I would like to ask you one more question. If you could provide advice directly to any parent about tube feeding, having to go through initially being told your child needs a tube, what would it be?
Try any other alternative if you can, because once that tube is in, the feeling I get is it's a really quick solution for the hospital. Once you discharge, there's nothing there to follow up. There's not enough experience, knowledge, awareness in tube weaning, especially in New South Wales. So I would highly recommend that you try to talk to other teams, try other avenues, just anything, and use that as a last resort.
I love that answer, and I wholeheartedly agree. In extension to what you said about the knowledge base in hospitals, I know for us, nobody knows what to do. You turn up at emergency. We did the same thing that you said with Thomas. You sat there and waited 6 hours. We had the same experience. We've got a tube half hanging out of his nose because it had only been in 2 weeks. We didn't know what to do, and they didn't know how to fix it. Nobody in the hospital knew what to do. Do you know what they did? You got to go to Gosford Hospital. So we had to leave Wyong Hospital, get in our car, drive to Gosford Hospital to go and find somebody who could help us. Hand on heart, that's how we had to deal with it. We had a 1-year-old baby with a tube half hanging out of his nose, and they couldn't fix it.
That's heartbreaking.
I completely agree with what you said around if you can try any other method first, do it. If for nothing else, then these stories where you've got people who don't know how to fix it, you've got hospitals who haven't been trained, there isn't the knowledge on tube weaning, there isn't the knowledge on tubes, full stop, period, the end.
It's challenging because in that moment of vulnerability, you're seeking expertise and you go to these clinicians for their expert advice. You don't want to second guess them if they suggest a tube, but given our experience and given so many experiences out there, it just does not feel like the right solution.
I don't know that question is being asked. What have you tried? What have you done? Do you know about this? I think it would be advisable in some cases to send people away and let them think about if this is really what they're prepared to do. Give them literature, give them pages. Hopefully one day someone will recommend people to come and listen to our podcast and they'll hear your story and they'll think, do we really want to go down this path? Are we prepared for this? Based on what you've said, and I know on my personal side of things in a similar journey, if someone had given me time to mentally prepare, NG tubes are horrendously traumatic, really traumatic, not just for the child, but for us who has to either watch it or do it or both. If we had the knowledge and we had the time to go, do we really want to go down this path? Would we have taken it? I don't want to answer it because I feel like we are where we are, but perhaps our answer would have been different if we'd had time. And I'm not talking about months. Give us 24 hours, give us 2 days, whatever they feel is, in a clinician's opinion is safe. But give us a minute to go, is this the right decision for this child? Is it the right decision for our family? Because it might not be, which is where it's hard. Because now you look back on it and you think, did we make the right choice? And that's a difficult question, I think. Do you find that that's a difficult question to look back on? It is,
because I was caught up in two minds, like during his tube journey. When he got sick, I would be like, there's our safety net of the tube. But then could we have avoided the tube altogether? I don't know, it's hard to say.
Is there anything else you wanted to let people know or anything else you wanted to share about Thomas's story and your journey?
I would say don't beat yourself up too much. There's a lot of mum guilt that comes with all of this. You always wonder what if, what could have been. We're all doing the best that we can. We all want the best for our kid. That's what we're doing. Things might not work out as we had planned, but everything that we decide was with good intentions. Don't beat yourself up too much.
I think that's a perfect way to end our conversation today, and I feel so privileged that you felt comfortable sharing this with me and with everybody who's listening, because it's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to talk about traumatic experiences with our kids, and I really think this is going to help people. And that's what we're here to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
A big thanks to Amy for sharing her story with us today and talking all about Thomas's journey with his tube. Until the next time, stay safe and we'll see you soon. This episode of Beyond the Tube is proudly sponsored by Blended Tube Feeding. Blended Tube Feeding was created by dietitian Hilary Gurink to support families who want to nourish their tubie with real food. Built on proven, research-backed methods, the platform empowers parents and caregivers to feel confident about safely and effectively using blended diets. Want more hands-on support? Check out Blended Tube Feeding Made Simple, an online community overflowing with delicious, nutritionally balanced recipes designed specifically for tubies. You'll also get step-by-step videos, expert resources, and a private community where families can connect and learn together. As a Beyond the Tube listener, you'll receive 25% off your monthly subscription with my exclusive affiliate link, which you'll find in today's show notes.